Awesome, awesome. So it's called WalletFrens. The reason why we started this is to talk with people and understand how people are going through their journey in Web3, right? Like basically, wallets are people, people are friends, wallets are friends. That's basically the underlying logic behind this. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the name suggests, basically what like I think in Web3 when everyone gets there, the first thing that end up doing is building their wallet, and kind of that's how their on-chain story sort of begins, and all the activities that you end up doing on-chain is like kind of your trail, and then there's a progression and things like that. So I have the first question to you basically. When did you first make your wallet, and like how did your journey begin, and what was your first transaction?
So I think the first, are you talking about NFTs or crypto in general? Where are you kind of going?
Both. I think, and then we'll deep dive into NFTs a bit.
Yeah, I think with crypto, the first transaction, that would have like the first wallet that I had was a hard wallet. It was a what was it? Not the Ledger. It was the Trezor, that's it. Yeah, Trezor. So the Trezor Bitcoin, and that was in 14 or 15, because I'd kind of gotten in, and then you'd had some, and then everyone's like, make sure you take it if it's not your keys, not your coins. So then got that off into the Trezor. So that was the first kind of wallet that I had, and that was my introduction. So it's one of those things where now that we kind of have hot wallets, and that's what you're kind of using when you're doing things day to day. My first introduction with wallets was like, cool, straight from an exchange to your sort of hardware wallet, and then kind of tuck that away to make sure you're safe. And if you want to then transfer stuff out, you then go back to an exchange or things like that. So that was my kind of introduction to wallets. So yeah, the first transactions would have just been, just Bitcoin transactions.
Was this around the time?
What about the NFTs?
Say it again, sorry?
Go ahead.
Yeah, what about was this around the time when Mount Gox happened? Because this sounds like a era where people are scared of putting money on exchanges, right? Like I think 2014 was a year and a half after Mount Gox happened.
Yeah. It was, I think it was around that period, because it's like, I think that kind of pushed forward that narrative of, hey, this is why you need to get a wallet, because everyone thought that if it was on an exchange, you'd be fine, which is funny looking at what has happened recently with all of the exchanges and liquidity issues, because everyone kind of got placid and got safe, and you had all the old grizzled guys going, hey, like, not your keys, not your coins, like, get them off your exchange. And people like, no, I'll put them in there. I can get like a good return. I can lend them out. I can do that. But all of the, like, everyone remembers what happened with Mt. Gox. Everyone kind of remembers those things. And they're like, no, I want to keep it. I want to hold custody myself. So what I can definitely see happening is what's going to happen in another sort of 5 or 10 years time. You're going to have a whole new set of people coming through, and the same thing's going to happen again at some point, because people just won't learn.
Yeah. I mean, that I think even the recent one with like Phantom and what's happened with Solana, that's something for a lot of people who just got into this ecosystem. Just the cycle last 1 year, it ended up in a big bummer. And but talking about your NFTs and your NFT wallet, like when did you first have your NFT wallet? Which one was it, and like what was the first NFT that you got into?
So it was in terms of like, so I break the NFT up into two different things. I first got into NFTs with Vivi, so kind of collectibles there. Now that is my first foray into NFTs, but not the way that you kind of imagine decentralized NFTs like you'd have on Ethereum now. When you're talking about Ethereum and those NFTs, it would be August, September last year is when I first got them. And the first purchases weren't anything crazy. It was just like, it was something dumb that was just like worth nothing then and worth nothing now. And it was more of a just exploring and learning. It wasn't waiting for a hype to drop to then buy something or mint something or buy something off OpenSea. It was just start using it, start to kind of explore it. Because if you don't everyone does, like, you always do a test transaction. If you're sending like a big sum of money, you're going to send a test transaction, like a test sum. So it's almost like that. My thought process is like, okay, let's buy some stuff, even if it's nothing, just to get familiar with the process, know what's going to happen, know how it works, how it looks, all that kind of stuff, to then be comfortable with it. Because the very first time that you kind of send from an exchange to like a hardware wallet, that's scary, because you're like, hey, is it there? Where is it? Like, it's in the ethos. It's on the chain. You don't know where it is. And it was the same kind of progression with NFTs. It's like, hey, I want to be able to buy some things, even if they're not like a smart strategic purchase, but buy some things that, hey, that kind of whale looks cool, I'll buy it. If it's worth something, cool, great. But it's not the intention to kind of make a big flip or a big gain. It's more like you've learned it, so now you're fine with it. And I think that the flow-on effect is, now I feel really comfortable in kind of minting, buying, transferring funds when it comes down to using my MetaMask wallet, because it's like, it's just what you do day in, day out. And I think it's funny when you've got someone who understands crypto, they might still be hesitant in doing it because they don't do like sort of tens of transactions a day. They're not high frequently trading like that. They're trading on an exchange, but they're not kind of literally going wallet to wallet with addresses and looking at Etherscan and doing that. So that was kind of a good thing to practice, because then it normalized transferring, buying, sort of that type of thing. So yeah, to circle back to the answer to the question, would be August, September last year.
Yeah, all of that transition also happened very quickly for like a lot of people too, right? Like just even the way the wallets are being used, like you said, like you got into the space kind of just wanting to collect stuff, and then the whole meta of like kind of you getting to know, okay, this is from collecting to, I mean, in the first episode that we did, me and Amar kind of went through a bit of history of sort of what has happened so far and try to unpack and like how the whole things have changed, the narratives have changed. And like, I think there was a very interesting time we're talking about August, September there, where I think already the secondary market volumes had already picked up, and you started seeing more of these flipping persona, like largely, like I think I got into the space somewhere slightly like few months earlier, buying my first NFT around March, and then like I kind of got into it to just collect a piece like of art, and then got to know, okay, there is this whole new dynamic about flipping, and so from Weave collectibles, and I think to then like maybe flipping, and then to start your own YouTube channel, like how did that whole journey pan out? Like, why did you want to start like making content, or like, you know, why did you want to deep dive into it?
The main reason that I wanted to jump in and start to make content is I know that if I am putting out pieces of content and putting it up publicly, you're learning in front of everyone. So if you end up making a mistake, you've made a video, you've done something, and if you've made a mistake, you then learn from it, because you get all the trolls, you get everyone kind of going, oh, yeah, that's terrible, that's a bad project, why would you talk about this, why would you do this? And what it then forces you to do is it forces you to be hypercritical about what you're doing, about what you're saying, because if you make a mistake in public, you're then not going to make that mistake again, which means that you evolve faster and you start to learn faster. Because it's very simple for people to make a mistake, not say that they've made a mistake, not have anyone to hold them accountable for making a mistake, sweep it under the rug, and then continuously make those mistakes. And it's when you start to vocalize what's happening and what you're doing, you then get better and you start acting smarter and you can move faster. Another aspect that I was thinking is that with the space moving so fast, it didn't matter where it moved to. If you were making content, you were then able to pivot to what the narrative is. So if right now, if all of Ethereum NFTs went down and everything on Solana went down and we went to a completely new chain, we did something completely new and different, I still have a business model. I'm still able to create content, still talk about it, because that's what I'm doing. So it almost then future-proofs yourself within the ecosystem, because you are able to pivot and navigate, because you're not tied to a specific thing. if that makes sense. So it was like another strategic move, which was, first off, I'm going to learn faster. Hopefully I will make better connections because I'm able to I will kind of build up a personal brand. But the other thing is, and I'm able to withstand the sort of waves and the ebbs and flows within the space because of the nature of content creation.
Were you a content creator before coming into NFTs, or like before you started NFT content creation?
So I have had a background. So I've shot music videos before. I've done corporate videos. I've made content before, but I've never had a YouTube channel like I do now. I have a friend who I've shot music videos with, I've done productions, I've done those things with, and he started up a YouTube channel, and he's like, hey, you should do it because it's good, it's fun. You get to just put out what you want. There is no client. There's no one telling you that they don't like that music. There's no one telling you that they don't like that thing. You can just put out what you want, and the market decides if what you're putting out is good, and it rewards you with views, likes, comments, which you can then go, okay, I'm good at this, I will continue to do it. So it is inherently what I like to do and how I like to create and communicate. But it's not like I had another YouTube channel beforehand, gaming or something, that I then pivoted into. This is something that I knew how to do. And I was like, okay, maybe I can use this as my strength. If I was a writer and I liked writing, I most likely would have started up a website or a blog. Like it's just that progression. It's like, and this is what I like to say to people is, if you know how you like to communicate, what you enjoy, what forms of communication you like to communicate in, by doing that, that's perfect. Because some people like writing, some people like taking photos, some people like making videos. So if you do that for the space, you're then going to end up coming out on top, because a lot of people say that they want to start a channel, say that they want to kind of write a blog, say that they want to do something, but they never execute and actually doing it. Means that the people that are doing it are going to sort of essentially win out in the long term.
Yeah, I mean, I think the same thing with the conversation that we are having right now. Like, we wanted to do this for a while, and then I think just generally talking to people who've been building active in the space and kind of getting a conversation going about the micro and the macro. And I think often what we found ourselves is having these conversations as we are building something in the space, right? It's very important to have this conversation about what's happening, where do we see this whole space going, and kind of getting our insights around it to build a product around it, essentially. So it like we wanted to do this for a while, and finally we got around to starting this conversational series. And I have a bit of a question for Amar to kind of also jump in and share his views on sort of being like, because we've been looking at the space like quite deeply, both as traders as well as builders in the space. So what did you see sort of the whole thing of content creation around in the space did to the general adoption and like I think the user persona, which is kind of there in the NFT market right now, right? Like, which was very different from, let's say, what was in like 2018 altcoin era, was like kind of very different from what is it right now. And I think Amar has been in the space like building since a while. So I just want to understand his viewpoint on like, was there like a lot of content creation game then? How is it different right now? And like, what's your viewpoint on it?
Yeah, so content creation has always been a part of crypto, right? Like 2017, there were content creators like Data Dash, who are like pretty much doing the ICO. Whenever there's a new ICO that is coming out, they would do a review, or they would review charts, bear market or bull market. They'd talk about how the chart is or things like that. And then that was one segment of it. And then there was a technical segment. There was this individual called Ivan on Tech. Currently, he's running Morales, the company. So Ivan used to break down the technical aspects of it. If these are the two dimensions, the majority of like YouTube crypto, if I were to use that term, was essentially dumping on people, right? Like, this was the major trend at that time, that people used to actually rake up views and likes and subscribers to be able to. I think at that time, BitConnect actually was the largest Ponzi running on YouTube. It was so many YouTube influencers were just on and on selling BitConnect. It's nobody's business. right? And I think a bunch of them went to jail as well, if I'm not wrong, and fairly so. They deserve to do that. I think the fundamental difference then and now is people now have some level of accountability, because you can call bullshit out by actually tracing wallets, right? Like it's very easy. Like someone's .eth, right? Like, and then you have someone like Zach XBT who's like absolutely drilling down and telling you where the money went from using tools like AppCrumbs. Now there is much more accountability to talking on social platforms, like, or on Twitter itself. Like, let's say, for example, Farooq, right? Like there was a lot of self-shaming on Farooq. Now, this wouldn't have been possible if there were no tools for transparency of what is happening on chain versus what is being untold on social media. Now we are at a stage where we are able to correlate these two things. I still don't see a platform which can actually put a tweet and a transaction right next to each other and be like, hey, this is what he said, this is what he did. But at least we are there. Currently, we're in a better stage of like content creation. What I liked about what Nate said was, what Nate is doing is proof of work, right? Like his YouTube videos are a proof of work that he has done to buy that NFT, or like to do a task that he is doing in the ecosystem, which is counterintuitive to what was happening last time. So yeah, this is a fundamental change of how content creation I've seen has evolved in like the crypto space.
Yeah, when I look at the crypto space, it is like the other thing as well about me jumping into it is when I got into making NFT content, the biggest YouTuber had 20,000 subscribers, I think, and the biggest crypto YouTubers have millions. And then I'm like, oh, if this actually does hit how it's going to hit, there's an easy 10x on everything here, like, or 100x. Like it's really possible. And then also the other aspect is with those gains, you're able to make those relationships get in at the ground floor. And I'm sure that like anyone that was in crypto in sort of 2013, 2014, like obviously I wish I'd loaded up in so many bags, because when I say this, people just assume that I'm a millionaire because you could have gotten it. But after Bitcoin hit that 1,000 and went back down, it did feel like it was never going to come back up. I thought that was the end of crypto. It had its pump and it was like we didn't know if it was ever going to get that high again. And where I started to kind of see that is everyone thought crypto was dumb. And then when you started to see the JPEG rocks sell for $1 million and the apes sell for sort of tens of thousands of dollars, everyone in crypto was like, this is dumb. And at that point, that's when it's like really clicked and I've gone, if everyone in crypto is calling it dumb, but some core people are here and believe in it, then what is it going to look like in 5 years' time? Because, like, yeah, 5 years ago, about 5 years ago, not everyone had crypto. Everyone thought crypto was dumb. Now everyone's got some kind of crypto. You're going to go to any Christmas event and like even grandma's like talking about like the crypto that she saw in the news, but they're all talking about and like hating on NFTs and Web3 and all that kind of stuff. And give it another kind of cycle or two, and then everyone will be buying them, using them, trading them without even really knowing it. Because like when with early crypto, it was hard to get just get the coins. It wasn't easy. It wasn't like you just download an app, do an easy KYC and you're done. Like it was hard to get coins, and that's just how it was. And then it became easier and easier. Now people are buying and selling crypto without even knowing how to do it, because they just open an app and they just kind of hit buy, sell with a credit card, and that's it. It's fine. It's simple. It wasn't like that back in the day. And when you take those parallels to what's happening now, it's not easy to buy or mint an NFT. Like when you talk someone through, hey, load up your MetaMask wallet, go to this site, click this thing, do this thing, go check here. Now it's going to pop up here. It's mind-boggling. And these are people that are technically literate people. They think you're like some weird hacker, because you're like, oh, this sign button's going to pop up. Make sure you click here. Don't double press it. Now go to Etherscan, check this out, put this in here. Make sure your process is going through. Okay, now head to OpenSea. But I don't have an OpenSea account. Don't worry, it's your wallet. Connect it. Go here. Now go to profile. But how does it have a profile? How does it know? That's decentralized. It's how it works. Just go in, refresh the page. Now your thing pops up. Okay, cool. Now you can sell it. Well, how do I sell it? Got to press here. Got to do this, and you kind of run through it. And it's like you're you're unplugged from the matrix, and you can like it's just crazy. And when that becomes easy, that's when you're going to onboard so many people, because at the moment it is very hard. And I think one of the things that I'm a huge advocate for is any kind of like, I like to use my phone for a lot of things. So if I need to use a computer to be minting, to making purchases, to do that, then it's, you know, that we're still early, because once you could use your phone to take photos, to take videos and post them on the internet with something like Instagram, then everyone starts to use it, because not everyone has a computer and is literate that way, but everyone's got a smartphone in some way, shape or form. And once things are very much integrated in that sense, once you have Apple kind of integrating a wallet within Apple Pay in that sense, it'll then get super fast, super easy, and things will just kick on. And everyone would be like, yeah, but why would Apple do that? I'm like, eventually Apple's going to be selling digital products as well. Like it's just going to make sense that that's where the evolution is. And by being in here now and knowing it, you're going to take advantage of it, because there is going to be people that want to buy what you've got, because you've essentially were able to front run everything and kind of just take advantage of it.
That's a very, very, very good point, right? I think somehow Apple is that platform which, when adopts, is like officially we have arrived at mainstream adoption, right? Like whether that's, I mean, we've heard the same thing about VR glasses, where like, when is Apple going to launch? And we have been waiting for the metaverse to get realized, or the digital assets. So this kinds of like segues into the topic which I want to get into, which is like sort of future of where do we stand and like what's upcoming, right? I think I'm just looking at some of the numbers right now. Maybe in January, February, when we had like kind of all-time highs of NFT market, into both in terms of volumes and number of users, it was about like 50,000 people, and like today maybe it's about 10-12,000 daily active buyers. So that's about 25%, right? But still, do you kind of see this numbers like with like macroeconomic conditions, like I think everyone knows about it. Like it's like US has printed loads of money, and I think we are entering like we're seeing already a high inflation, and then US is trying to rename recession, and like everything is being done to do the propaganda to not go into the economic downfall. But at the same time, it's very interesting. We're also seeing like unemployment rates are not rising. In fact, like people have loaded up a lot of cash and are starting to kind of still, like there is a momentum of the cash flows people have, whether that is the projects which have raised in the NFT market, or in the macro of like companies which have raised a lot of money during the previous bull run and are continuing to invest to grow their businesses, while we are also seeing macroeconomic conditions. So it's a very interesting dynamic that's outgoing. And now specifically talking about the crypto and NFT market itself, like we're already seeing like obviously a bit of a downturn. And yesterday itself, I think someone posted like OpenSea had like the all-time low, right? And so how do you see like the whole macroeconomic condition, as well as the micro sort of what is happening within the NFT space? And do you see this as a bump along the road? Do you see that, it's something which is inevitable because of the whole hype that has happened, and like this is a lot of the interactions has been primarily been speculative, and a lot more it takes a certain amount of crash for the real utility to come out. So I think I would love to hear everyone's opinion on this here.
I think I heard it somewhere, and someone was like, what you would consider like all the altcoins and the altcoins pumping it, like when people were expecting altcoins to pump, what they were doing is they weren't realizing that a lot of the NFT projects are essentially just a low supply altcoin. Like that's actually what it is, with some JPEGs attached. And it's like we did have a big frenzy, a big mania in that sense, because you had people coming in to speculate, just like you would with ICOs, buying a whole bunch of random coins, meme coins, just hoping that they would pump. You're essentially buying meme coins that have JPEGs attached to them. And I think that when we do come back into another wave of like essentially when the cycles go through and we come back again, because I know that sort of crypto is going to come back, and then like sort of NFTs are going to come back, I don't know. It'd be silly for me to say how long it's going to last. I don't know. But the idea is I know it is going to come back because it just always has. Right now, when everyone's like, oh, NFTs are dead, oh, crypto's dead, it's over. That's how everyone's thinking in 2014. It's how everyone was thinking in 2018. Like, it's how we have thought for the past few cycles. And after you've seen it, you're going, okay, yep, you know what it is. You just gotta deal with it. Where I think the opportunity lies right now, if you're talking NFTs specifically, is with a reduced set of people. You don't have, I like to call them tourists. In January, you had a whole bunch of tourists, which were people coming in, try to make some money, one lost, and then now they're gone because there isn't those easy opportunities now. So the tourists are gone, and now you've got like the people that are kind of dead set and keen on staying within the space. With this reduced contraction within the space, it means that it's not easy for a project to launch because it then, unless everyone's in the entire space has complete 100% conviction, it's just not going to work because you don't have the attention. Back in January, there were projects that were launching that people knew were rug pulls, but they would actively buy into it because they were like, I'll be smart enough to not be the last one holding it. That's just how it was. Now people aren't even going to consider like moving into those trades. And where this opportunity arises is those big established projects or people that are launching something will have the intention of the entire space. The attention isn't segmented. Now, when it comes to a project like Meme Land, when you kind of have a look at Izu by Psychedelics Anonymous, you've got some projects that are going to launch that have everyone's attention. Every single person that's here, it's got that attention. So now you start to have these the fringe kind of project, the more speculative projects, I think won't do as well and won't sell out, won't do good. But if you can get in on the ground floor of these ones, you're having the entire market's attention, and there are going to be those opportunities there. So it's like when you're looking at the short term, I think it's exciting because this is where those savvy people can actually kind of make some good moves because they are able to notice that everyone here, like everyone's going to be looking at some of these drops coming up and watching them very closely. And that's where all the money is going to be going around. And then you will have people swing trading. You will have people setting up bots to kind of snipe sort of fat fingered things. You're going to have a lot of like people tracking wallets, kind of people seeing who's buying what, who are the biggest holders, where are they selling, what are their trades doing. And then all that attention is going to be on it. And everyone's going to be tweeting about it. And it's just going to keep being, the echo chamber is just going to keep getting louder and louder for those things. And that's where there will lie some opportunity because the space is contracted and people aren't drawn away. In January, when you did have a big project, someone was like, oh, I'm not whitelisted for this project, or I don't think I'm going to get in on this project, but don't worry, there's 10 others I can still make some money on. So I'll forget about that one. I'll move on to something else. And I think that now it is contracting and it gives everyone that opportunity to focus on those big core pieces by established teams to actually kind of have a run.
Yeah, so I mean, do you think, this is a question me and my friends were discussing about yesterday, okay? What we felt was when we looked at the data or like certain behaviors that we have seen over the market, it is almost impossible to replicate an year of degenerate gambling that has taken place in the years 2021 and 22, right? Like it started off with like GameStop short squeeze, and then it started all the way from there. It went to the JPEG mania while all of that was happening. And then the stimmies got really put to use by the Americans, right? So there were like a multiple factors that happened which actually brought like that insane amount of like level of market participation, which in turn leads to gambling, right? How long before we see a level of that? Because what we figured was, okay, this was not a product of one activity. It was a product of 4 to 5 things that actually culminated for this kind of a crazy bull run.
I think one way I like to describe it and explain it to sort of people that haven't kind of gone through like a little bit of a bearish sense, because we did have somewhat of a pullback in October, November when it came to NFTs. And what I said, what I was saying to some of these people is what happened in January is you would mint something for 0.1. Oh no, so you'd mint something for 0.05. It'd get to 0.1. You would sell it because you doubled your money. And you're like, I'm good. Like, I'm actually making gains. But it would run to a 0.15 or a 0.2. And you'd be like, I missed out on a 4x. The next project would mint at a 0.05 and it'd run up to a 0.25 or a 0.3. And you made a point, like you ended up making a 0.1 gain. And you're like, I still missed out on more. And then what happens is that degenerate gambling action comes in. You're going, well, I've already made 2 wins. Maybe I can just hold on to it longer. And instead of just trying to get a 2 or 3x, maybe I'll aim for a 5x. And it runs up to a 6 or a 7. And you're like, maybe I can hold on longer. Then, because you're having all of this attention, because you've essentially only got, say, 10,000 holders in it, you've got 10,000 people holding it going, it's going to run higher. I'm going to hold onto it. It holds onto it, it runs up, and people are less willing to sell because they go, this has got an easy 5x. It's going to 5x no matter what. So listing it less than a 5x is dumb. Right now, the reason floors are getting kind of essentially bricked is because you've got people going, look, I made $50. I'll take it because it's not going to run up to 250. If everyone's guaranteed it was going to run up to $250 profit, then everyone would hold to it. And where this kind of comes back in with the mania and the hype is what it takes is people that have bought in, like DCA'd into some crypto, people that have then DCA'd into sort of crypto and NFTs, or kind of ready to kind of make these gambles and gains. When you start having the sort of the kids that are like 14, 15, 16-year-olds now buying into it, then they become 18, 19, 20, and they're in that position where they're like, hey, I've got $200,000 in cash, and you can verify it on chain. Look at what I've done. Then people are going, oh, what? Maybe I can do that. Then you start to get this FOMO and that build in again, because you then have another set of people kind of going, oh, well, NFTs did pop off. Maybe I can actually learn how to trade. I lost on NFTs last time, but I'll make sure I'm smart this time. I'll make sure I'm not trying to get 10x's, but I'll just get 5x's. Then they come in ready to kind of do it. They will be educated. There will be more platforms to kind of essentially gamble on. And I think the mania will get big, but just like when you look at Bitcoin in its pumps up, it's been getting kind of lower in terms of the pumps, because it was like, what, 1,000, like it was a run from like, was it 100 or 30 or something? Then it went up to like the 1,000, then it went down, then went up to like, so what, 17,000, then it went down. And then you kind of like, the gains aren't getting as big. So I don't think we will see as big, but we will see a big influx of people and participants in the market, because everyone thinks NFTs are dumb and JPEGs are dumb. But like, okay, one comparison I like is on Reddit, you've got everyone in like sort of the cryptocurrency ones saying NFTs are dumb. They hate them. They don't like them. Yet they've all gone around and bought a Reddit avatar. It's a digital avatar, which is an NFT. They're all rocking it and they're going, NFTs are dumb. It's like, you're an idiot. You've got one. It's like, no, it's not a monkey. It's like they don't get it. And I think that it'll come across where they go, oh, there is a use case. Oh, I can see what it is, which then means that people are willing to kind of jump in. Because the fact is, we had a big, crazy NFT mania, but it felt like the entire internet was against it. And you're going, what happens when you've got a lot of people that are willing to dabble just a little bit because their favorite brands are involved, because it actually does give them some sort of utility? You then might see that big sort of run and wave come through.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you in the front of like, it is like, so the matter of fact that few projects where NFT and YC had to do this thing where they just put out this thing saying that NFTs are, God hates NFTs and like this sort of thing, right? Like, and I think it's just a vocalizing of that counter sentiment. Like Instagram just launched NFTs to be visible, and like a lot more people are getting to know what it is. And I do agree to your point of like the volatility and the price action and the differences is gonna get more consolidated into few projects, and the volatility is gonna reduce a little bit. In the short term though, cash is gonna dry up a little bit, just considering the macro stuff. Maybe once we wither through a bit of this macro bear, and then kind of people get back to the ability to, because it's like we're just starting of the landslide, I feel like, and still we are seeing a bit of like up and down, but I think I don't know the time frame again, but there's definitely a time through which this whole thing is going to come back. Like, I mean, just imagine the token shitcoin bumps that happened in 2017. They never really took off to the level that they happened. Like during this bull run, we did anticipate that a lot of a similar action would happen, and like a lot of people were ready to kind of pounce on that. But I think a lot of that volume went into few of those altcoins, which were like fundamentally very, very solid. Whether that's like Solana, which started at the start of this bull run, maybe at like $1 and like went up to like few hundred, right? Like, and but it wasn't widespread as it was in 2018, where 2017, where a lot of the shitcoins just pumped. And I think similar thing would also probably happen during the next bull run of NFTs, where still those kinds of really good projects are going to get that action, but I don't think it's going to happen like mindless shit, right? Like, it's gonna happen on some things. Like the speculation is gonna happen, but it's gonna happen on a lot fewer items, and the timing of that when it's gonna happen is gonna be a lot more like now. This between 2017 and 2021, the macroeconomics was still okay, right? It was good, in fact. It was not bad, right? So, but I think now with the macro sort of changing, then the timeline that it would take for this behavior to replicate in the space is probably going to take a little bit of while. But again, that depends on how the macro is. Like if the macro kinds of manages to do well for different reasons, and like I said, like there is. It's a very interesting decision this time. Like it's not the typical decision that was seen. So that's one viewpoint. And but another interesting thing which I'm also
before we go ahead, Anuj, I have a question for you. Okay.
Sure.
So Nate mentioned about how when you're holding an NFT and it's going up, you have this mentality of you should sell, but then the greed kicks in and then you hold to it, right? Like being coming from a professional poker background, like how do you deal with this? Like because Nate, like for context, like Anuj before coming to the world of NFTs was a professional poker player in India, where he quit his corporate job and all to go into full-time into poker. So I just wanted to understand from a mindset standpoint, how do you comprehend greed versus when to cash out?
I think it's even an assumption assuming people are greedy to hold and do that. Like, for example, even if I consider my use case, right? Like I have not sold. It's not out of greed. It's just a lack of plain strategy. Right? And often people, and the reasons could be very different, right? Like I might have got my gains from some of the ones which I wanted. So to speak, I got off my buy-in and just free riding everything else, and I don't mind riding it for the long run. That could be one thing, and also the fact that, like for example, Nate, like you bought into collectibles and then you moved into the secondary market. But I still have few of my friends who still just never got exposed from Weave collectibles to the secondary market, and they're just happy holding on to them. They don't care if they're going up or not, because it's just about collecting them. So everyone has a different strategy why they would want to do that, and I think holding and collecting is a user behavior which is kind of prominent in certain parts of the world versus certain parts of the world, and they are more happy to just hold on to them. I think flipping kind of comes from when people saw there was a lot of action happening here, where there's a lot of money movement happening here. I think a lot of trader persona started moving here. I think that's when the whole flipping behavior really snowballed into something bigger, and like even big traders, like the most prominent ones, like have actually changed the game in a very fundamental way, where they brought about this concept of like flipping, which was kind of not so much there, even though NFTs were there since 2020, 2018, 19, where people are buying and just like keeping it and seeing like, okay, what happens, right? So I think that behavior continued to stay there for a while, where people didn't realize there was a change in meta, that you could be selling them for a profit sort of thing. And because they saw this exponential rise, and they were like, okay, maybe okay, you can call it greed or you can call it whatever different sorts of emotions what they might have inside, but fundamentally, I think lack of strategy, or a strategy which is not optimized for this for the phase of the game that is going on. So yeah, I mean that's my thought, and I think yeah.
What I wanted to kind of jump in and say is that what you're saying about like lack of strategy, the people that I know that have done stupidly well and stupidly good from a trader perspective, they have a strategy. And it's not just buy one, flip this, do this. They make it a habit where they kind of go, if I buy this, even if it is on secondary, just say they're buying an ape, they go, I know what I'm buying it in at. Here is my sell price, no matter what opportunity comes up. Here is my dead set sell price. People that mint go, I'm going to mint this. As long as I can make a 2 or 3x, I will 100% sell it. I will not get attached to it. That's fine. And sure, they will make some gains here, and sure, they'll not make the biggest gains on some because they might sell something at sort of 2 ETH and it runs up to 10. But in their mind, they go, if I stick to my sort of strategy of buying these types of projects, selling these types of projects, and the overarching goal of stacking ETH, then that's fine. Because it's like, I guess there's some people that want to play poker to play the game, and there's some that are like, I'm going to go in with my stack. If I can double that stack, once I double it, I'm out of there. It doesn't matter if I've been there for 10 minutes and I really want to keep playing. I've done it. That is my strategy. Now I move on to keep playing another day. Whereas some people would be like, oh, I've only been here for a little bit. I'm on a hot streak. I can keep going, or like that. And I think that that's where the best people that I know in the space are ones that have a strategy, have some rules, and they just run for it. One guy, he goes, I'm not here to stack JPEGs. I'm here to stack ETH. That's all he does. He just goes, I'm here to stack ETH. That's all he wants to do. And he'll stack the ETH, and then he'll kind of go over to like, sort of a stable or whatever he wants to at certain points in time, but that's what he does. He's not here for JPEGs, he's here for ETH. And every time I talk to him, I'm like, damn, like his mindset and the way that he thinks is ruthless. And he goes, the best feeling he has is after he mints the project and sells it, he goes up to the top and goes like, sort of, yeah, right click, leave server. That's his favorite part of trading NFTs, which is leave server. He's like, done, I'm out. What's next? And at that point, it's like, that guy's still here and he's making great moves because he's got that conviction, he's got it set up, and he's unapologetic. If someone's like, oh, you wouldn't flip my project, he'd be like, I will flip your project, I will do this. Because he goes, this is what I'm going to do. If you don't want to let him in on the project, it's fine. He's unapologetic about it. And at that point, you can't hate or fault someone for sticking, like having conviction and sticking to their guns when it comes down to it. Like, yeah, so like 100% it comes down to like having a strategy and sticking to that strategy. And I'm sure that that's what makes the difference between an amateur player at anything and a pro player. A pro player at anything has a strategy. They kind of essentially train, and that, like, they don't deviate from that.
Absolutely, and I have a sort of a follow-up thought and question around this. Like, so there's, like, we spoke about these two different kinds of personas, who are people who are hodling, joining this community, and then there are people who are basically traders, right? Like, who trade in, trade out. With sort of the macro of this, and then maybe say let's just say 1 year, right? Like, what sort of personas do you kind of see more and more are going to be sustaining in the space? And like, kind of, where do you sort of see this market going? Like, the moment volume comes in, obviously traders are going to be there, but I think because there is no shorting, right? I don't know. I mean, shorting could also happen in NFTs, like, but just curious to know your thoughts on, like, whether that's new project collection or utility with NFTs, and, like, you know, I think we speak very less about the actual use of these NFTs as they would need to come to something, right? So just want to get your thoughts on that. Yeah.
I think the personas that you're going to see within the space are people that aren't necessarily collecting and trying to join a community and join into a project. One good analogy that I could give is a lot of people are in a private group, an alpha pass, something like that. That's their home. That's where they stay. That's where their homies are. There might be in 2 or 3 of them, but that's where they are. They then go out, find projects, look at them, evaluate them, play that game, and then almost come back with their spoils and be like, here's what I was playing today. And this is where they're having those conversations. And right now, I think that that's where we're moving towards, where people are getting more and more ruthless and adopting that mentality because they've seen their bags essentially bleed out. And it really comes down to people not caring about utility, not caring about anything. They care about the future utility in terms of speculation because they have lost so much. One thing that I like to say whenever I hear and this could be a controversial thing to say, when people sort of jump in my DMs and go, hey, I've got a project where we're donating sort of 20% to charity or 50% to charity. The first thing that I say to them is I'm like, that's a very bad thing to have in the project because everyone the first thing they'll say is like, hey, I'm a charity. Why don't you give me $1 million? That's just the way that people act. They go, hey, I deserve something, so I want to get something. It's like going into the casino, having all of these people playing table game after table game and just losing money, and walking up to the guy that's lost $5,000 that night going, hey, would you like to donate to charity? He's like, donate to charity? I am the charity here. I've lost money. I've bought in at the top. I've done this. So I think that mentality, everyone's being burnt, has bought in at the top on some things, and they're not sitting in a good position. So they're kind of gone into like a very strategic defensive mode when it comes down to what they're doing. Because I'm telling you, in all honesty, the conversations that I have with people are, what's the utility? And a lot of people, they don't want to join a new community. They don't want access to that new thing. It just comes down to the art of speculation. Now, sure, you will have those one-off things that do kind of work and play out, but I think that overall, a lot of it just kind of comes into speculation. You've got these people that are savvy, so you do need to have somewhat of new money coming through. One of the reasons that I think you got diamond hand holders on projects that didn't sort of warrant it in January was you had new people coming in that were swayed by the relentless Discord chat going, oh, the chat's wild. Everyone's saying it's going to 1/8 floor. It's going to a 1/8 floor. They crunch the numbers and go, an eighth's at $4,000. Well, that means that if I buy this thing for 50, I'll have 4,000. I'm going to hold to 1/8. Everyone's holding to 1/8. We're going to hold it. But they don't realize that they have then become the exit liquidity for these people, and they go, no, they have confidence. This person's docked. Oh, I really like this idea. I think it's great. It is going to be the next Bored Ape. It is going to be the next Doodles. This is good. And they hold on to it, and they become the diamond hand holders, which is where you end up with like a whole bunch of the savvy people knew how to kind of play the game and play the system, knowing that you had some people coming in that weren't smart enough to have seen it before. After you've seen 50 or 100 different projects say they're the next Bored Ape, you go, you're not the next Bored Ape. You just know it. You can tell when a team is different. You can tell when an idea is different. So you then only move in on those. But when you know that there's some sort of uneducated people moving in on something, you then go, hey, there's an opportunity here. There's an arbitrage here. So I'm going to take it. So until you have some new people come into the space with a different mentality, a collecting and holding mentality, you're then going to have everyone trying to flip over each other. But then, like I was touching on beforehand, when you then have more money coming through and the people that are making these really quick flips end up losing out more on the people that are just naively minting and holding and then selling one at some point, they're like, oh, the novice people are making more than me. I must be doing something wrong. I'm then going to diamond hand and hold this for a lot longer, which then starts to perpetuate that cycle. Because right now, I know that looking back at January, there were so many projects that I kind of got in at and sold too early and sold way too early. And all my friends sold way too early because we knew what was happening in October, November. Then what happened was like, maybe we should start holding this a little bit longer and just giving it a little more room to breathe, a little bit more room to run. And when it started to run, I was like, okay, we're good now. Then you start to get overconfident. You then get greedy. And then next thing you know, liquidity's gone and then you're left holding the bags.
I'll just follow up with that question. What do you think the role of psychological operations plays, psyops, or what crypto Twitter calls it, right? Like, what is the role of psyops in like NFT projects, and how far do you think they've been effective at bad actors being able to cause grifts or good actors losing money?
Are you able to rephrase the question just so I can kind of give you a really good answer with some great context?
Awesome. So the psychological operations is people trying to force a narrative on people. So I am a thought leader, and I'm going to force a narrative on people that are following me, so that they basically buy into something that I tell is good. Is a thing that has actually ruled crypto Twitter for like a while. So much so that even the guy sitting on top, which was Su, like doing 3 Arrow Capital, was like the god of psyops, right? Like that was what he was called. So the psychological, playing psychological games on people that are a part of your community, how far has it benefited or affected communities?
I think it's the way that I would kind of see it is in January, like at the start of the year, it affected a lot of people because they would see someone that has a 200 or 300 ETH bag say something or buy something or move it. And this is like when you had people copy trading Pranksy or Gary Vee, just because they go, hey, this is what they're doing. Like, you're tracking wallets, you can kind of do that and then hopefully make a gain off what they're doing. But I think that once people realize that, like, everyone is speculating anyway, and then a lot of people are trying to line their own bags, and it comes back to checking wallets and see when people sold and what they're doing. I think a lot of people got a lot smarter and then started to go, maybe I shouldn't trust what people are saying or doing and actually go by what the hard data could be. Because I know we were touching on it before about the wallets, and it's like you've got so many different applications where you can start to kind of track wallets of what people are buying and selling. And then you can kind of use that as a way to kind of go, someone's talking positively about a project. Have they bought into the project? Are they following this thing? Are they actually kind of buying into it? If they aren't, okay, cool. It looks like it could. They're being paid to promote it or to provide some liquidity. Like they're trying to get exit liquidity for a project. But then you've got on the other side, and this is an actual aside because I've got friends where they would buy into a project, but they couldn't publicly announce it on Twitter. They couldn't say anything because they know that if they say anything about it, it could move the market. And by moving the market, that's unfair because then they wouldn't be able to sell it. So sometimes there's almost a point where they can't play the game that they used to play when they were smaller because people are following what they're doing, which then means that they then FUD something. And it's like, it's crazy because you have someone that genuinely goes, hey, that's a good project. They buy into it. It does a 10x. They're like, hey, this is a good time to take some profit. As soon as they sell it, now you have an entire army of the community whose bags are essentially dropping because there was that sell signal that then go, okay, this person's bad. They're just a pump and dumper. They just bought into this project. They said this, they do that. So it played heavily at the start of the year. And I think right now, the people that are here because it's contracted are a lot more aware of it and are able to kind of listen to it, but not blindly trust it.
So I think regarding the point which you spoke about, like the whole persona and like how their behavior is changing about being okay with sort of flipping and that sort of a thing, right? Like it's a very interesting like if you just zoom out and look at like what is the psychology of the space has been over the last 1 year, right? It's very, very interesting. Like first there were like some small games happening where people are like just like whatever buying, holding and some stuff, and like people are buying art and like there is a interest that's coming about, and then you start seeing like the trader persona moving and then making those flips. And everyone was making money, right? Like the holder was making money, the flipper was making money, everyone was sort of making money, everyone was happy. The whole narrative about Wagme was there. And then I think then came the point where things started, like I think October around, things started slowing down a bit. People were panicking, and then there came another rush, and then we expected a lot more of things to happen with Coinbase or with some of the other things, like where like people thought it's going to bring in another wave, and it's very evident in the whole, like we have this fear and greed index, right? I think it was like kind of very evident from that viewpoint of like where that space is at. And then like now we're almost going like towards the fear side of things. It's heavily on the fear side of things. You can see the market is pretty cold. often like this the times to really buy into some really good projects, but still like the time may not be even right yet. But the point being, like almost people who are wanting to hold on are now being put in a spot where they would want to flip off for like smaller profits. And I think there is a distinction of people that's happening there where they're like, okay, okay, I'm in for the hold. I'm just going to stick with the hold, and then people are like, okay, I think it's gonna come back lower or whatever, and like are willing to flip for things, and the number of people are reducing, and like if you look at the micro of like the cycle right now, it's I feel like it's at a point where a trough in a cycle where like the real emotions of the like people kind of like how they look at the glass, is it half full or half empty sort of a thing comes into play. And then what you said is about like the one way to interpret it is like to say like, yes, the flippers will get more hardcore. While that is also there, I think I also think there is another side to it, which is the utilities or the communities or the projects which are gonna be like long-term value are gonna be really lucrative to buy in, because everything is at a fire sale, and people who are coming with that holding behavior and probably their entry, they will have like enough time to get entry into these projects. Like it's not going to move overnight. It's and like things which have kind of, because everything was kind of blowing up also, and some of the projects which are blowing up but not necessarily to the level, I think will start accumulating a lot more. But this also brings about another kinds of thing where the projects and the people who are going to be involved in the space are going to be less interested in the speculative, because speculation is not yielding as much as value it used to be, but about trying out different projects or these sorts of things. So from the viewpoint of that you said, I think I for a fact, like based on our discussions, knew Amar had a very counterpoint to this. So I would like to pick his brain on that, and then like I want to hear what your thoughts on like how this persona changes and what happens.
I think bear market gives an opportunity for you to try out new projects, right? Like I basically, the best feeling that I've had in this whole market cycle this time was when I got free money, right? And that free money came from optimism. And that free money came from optimism because I had the privilege of actually signing a bunch of DAO votes, a bunch of like, bridging a bunch of assets, whatever basically optimism put as a criteria to get an airdrop, I fulfilled all of it. And I was able to do that because I just explored. Like that's it. Like all I had to do was join some community for $50, pass a vote. Like join some other community, bridge an asset, right? Like these things, when accumulatively, when we keep doing more and more, especially in this market, you get to know who the good people are, because typically when the party ends, like all the people who have just come for the alcohol leave, but the people who have come for the vibes stay back. And now when you see the people who have stayed back for the vibes, now honestly that's where actually money to be made is also, right? Like speculative markets definitely give an opportunity, but all of us like Nate came like probably 3 years before I did. Like my first entry into BTC was 2016 ending 2017. I mean, I still kick myself to the date that had I just held on to assets and not traded, I would have made like so much more money than just being a degenerate and be like, hey, I want that $5 extra, right? So yeah, I mean, definitely, I believe participation is the name of the game in bear market. Like just like see what's happening in different places, and then have a very close eye on like who are the people who will see the light of next cycle. Any of these projects survive and see the light of next cycle, successfully deliver what is there on the roadmap, I think they're going to see their price go back to where it was in the peak of the cycle, or probably go past it. Like for example, right now we all know on top of our heads, all the people on this call, we can name 15 NFT projects on top of our mind that we know we are going to see in the next cycle. Like for sure, we know it, right? So these are the places we have to keep an eye out, read, participate, like talk to people, make friends.
one thing that I'd kind of jump off the back of that is like what you were saying is I think networking and just making friends with people and jumping onto as many things. It's almost like the reason why we're jumping on and having a chat now, because it's like, it's silly to just go, I'm going to focus on my own thing, build my own thing, when if you can network with as many people as possible, someone here is going to be the Web3 Steve Jobs. Now, I know Champ says that he's the NFT Steve Jobs, but it's like the idea is you're going to have the Bezos, the Musk, you're going to have these crazy billionaires that have come from Web3 that have 30 or 40,000 followers that you can slide into a DM that you're going to essentially could be the, like, within their organization and helping. Like that is what it's going to be. And it's going to be crazy and nuts, because what'll happen is, and without trying to sound egotistical, I like to imagine that I will eventually like keep going, and the next wave through, it'll keep growing, and it'll get harder to DM me and reach out to me. It'll be hard to reach out and DM you guys because we're going to be here. Because if we look back at the 2013, 2014, 2015, those people that were there building some stuff, like at one point in time, you could have been DMing and chatting with Vitalik. You could have done it. But were you? No, you weren't. You were calling crypto a scam. There's someone there like right now, but it's hard because there were so many people building something and you didn't know what they were. It's not just buying ETH at $1 or $11 or $30. It's the fact that everyone that starts a project, that they always have 0 followers to begin with. And it's like, you in this space right now is contracting. There are some smart people and you can make these moves and it's going to pay off. Then in 50 years time, when it's like, hey, what happened with the crazy like Web3 NFT speculation thing? Like, oh, it isn't what it is now, but I'm actually friends with the person who's like the COO at this major big company brand digital metaverse thing. And you're able to then leverage that to give your kid or your grandkid a job somewhere because you were able to do that. Like, that's just what's going to happen, because it's crazy when you look at how big business is looking at just NFT and digital collectibles as a thing. Like, the fact is, on like, you've got Disney, you've got Marvel, you've got all of them kind of doing the digital collectibles, which is fine. You look at a company like Salesforce, they are big, they are huge. Their senior management, like senior team, have been wanting to integrate and like build products for their customers that are digital collectibles and NFTs. And what's crazy is that all of the people that are working in the mid to lower tiers at Salesforce think NFTs are dumb as hell. But why would the like CEO be going, let's move forward, let's build this product? Because they know that all the big brands, all of the big companies that have the billions and billions of dollars are going to add digital products to their balance books. And it does make sense that every company is going to need to have like a Web3 / NFT division. They're going to need to have it because that's just what it is. If you actually have a look at, and I keep touching on Salesforce just because they had they're a big software that I think they're a big company that I think a lot of people, like mainstream people, have heard of. They use their CRMs, they use their things. So it's a very good thing. And the idea is, if you want to go try to get a job at Salesforce in their NFT division, they ask if you know how to community management on Discord. And you're going, it's crazy that you've got a big organization that goes, do you know how Discord works? Because they know that that's a crucial component right now of how it is. This will evolve, this will change, but eventually just being able to set up the server, being able to kind of community manage in that sense, eventually you're going to have Coca-Cola going, hey, we've got an NFT division. We're going to hire someone that can be the like Discord server management community manager for it. You're going to get paid $130,000, $140,000 a year. That manages moderators who are Coke employees going in there, answering questions, doing that. Like, these things are going to happen. They are going to exist. And you can do it right now, because right now everyone's like finding their own space, building something, and you can reach out and send them a DM and they're going to answer it. Do you know why? Because it's quiet. It's easy to get through. When it's at the hype and the mania, it's hard because the DMs are flooding around. Everything's crazy. But when it's quiet, you can call out someone's name and they're most likely going to answer you.
Yeah, and what I find also very interesting is the whole aspect about your activity that you're doing on chain kind of starts building your reputation. Your .eth, like the social, like not everyone is gonna have their own YouTube channel or Twitter following, but everyone is gonna have their own ENS and the activity that they've done across different ecosystems. And I'm sure, like I can imagine a time where, like 2 years down the line, possibly there will be some kind of Web 2 and Web 3 integration where the activities that you have done in the closed groups of Discord, or like the reputation that you end up building as a part of your Discord profile, is going to somehow get linked if you want it to, right? Obviously, that's the best part about crypto, is like I can choose to or not choose to, and link that whole thing, and that becomes a way for your profile and identity to be discovered, and that brings about different sorts of opportunities. And even the thing that we guys launched, right, like the whole rec meter thing, which you made a video on, first and foremost, like thank you so much for pulling that out, and like hope you had fun trying to make that video. The idea there is that, like, everything is out there. The idea is you can kind of see what people are doing. I think that is one just fun way of doing it. But I think the bigger picture there is that, and we really wanted to just make it fun and like make it a way for people to discover that, because a lot of people got there and maybe not even know that all of that is out there for you to see for free. So now once you start seeing that, you can build your own profile. You can discover new opportunities on the basis of, like, let's say I've been an active trader in NFTs. I've been there in the space for 5 months and now I'm still here. That brings about a good reason for a new project or a dApp which is launching for them to say, okay, come check out this project of ours, because you've been someone who has been in the space and will continue to stay in the space. And that kind of cross opportunities and cross pollination, I think there's like huge amounts of opportunities that people are gonna get, like, which is a combination of like what you and Amar said, right? Like, which is like the core people are going to stay back, and then there is all of those new opportunities that's going to come by, which is going to be relevant for them. And not only just the obviously the element of networking is going to get you one-on-one connections and bring that, but for a lot of those people who don't end up even taking that step, their on-chain identities itself and their whole persona on chain can start bringing them these opportunities. And these are some of the things which we have been excited at Wall to kind of look at and see what sort of product or what sort of experience kind of makes sense to them. And in that context, like we built the rec meter, there is a profile, and I think now we're going a little bit deeper into defining what a profile is and what sort of opportunities can you get out of this profile. So that's something which is super exciting. Yeah.
Touching on the ENS thing, what I find funny is that all of my friends that think NFTs are dumb, everyone that kind of thinks it's dumb, I've just like I buy up names, but like their names, just so I've got that later on, because I know that down the line when your friend Michael wants his thing, you've got his surname and you're like, I own your whole, like, I am the person that holds like you want to be the patriarch of what will be your Web3 dynasty. Well, guess what? I'm in charge of it now. You better buy me that case of beer. Otherwise, you're not getting it. And you're able to do that because it's like, it's fun. So I've just gone off, and these are just the fun things that they're not to make the 10x. They're not to make the 100x and speculate on like sort of 3-character ENS domains. They're the fun things that you know are going to matter, that you can just get because you're able to move forward now. And you've got that because eventually that will be great, because when I see things moving forward, you like, it'd be great to be out with someone instead of, because we don't have Venmo here in Australia. The idea about, hey, can you send me some, what's your address? Bang, punch it in. They like, you've got these things, you've got fun. I was talking to someone else, and it's like where you start to get wallet and on-chain data and stuff, especially when you start to integrate like what I think Web3 and NFT technology can be when it comes down to a proof of ownership standpoint, is the fact that you go out for a big night with the boys, you all create that burner wallet, you all buy that ENS address, and that night, because everything is NFTized, every beer that you've got, you can actually see who spent the most on drinks that night. You can see who actually did that because you've got that. You created that burner wallet. It's all on chain. Oh, actually, Steve, you didn't buy that round. I bought this round because you've got this. It's all on chain. At the end of the night, bang, you delete that wallet. You're done. You're fine. And it's like, it sounds silly and wasteful, but that's what people do. They collect bottles of alcohol to put in their back. They like to be like, oh, look how many beers we drank last night. And like, when you kind of start to incorporate this technology into it, you've got a way to like, everyone's got that friend that says they drank 100 beers and that they're the best. And you're like, no, you didn't. And it's like, being able to do that kind of stuff is fun because it's like, now I can prove that you didn't actually do it. Now I can prove that I'm better. And this is where it starts to get fun because you can't like, if you've got this proof, it's good. And then that can kind of go into it. Like, I'm not in, like, I've only kind of seen it in the, when you kind of look at the movies with the US, but like all these frat houses, all of these things, all of these clubs, eventually you're going to have the reputation of what's in your wallet. If you are a watch buff, you're going to have your watch wallet, which that goes, what have you owned? You have actually bought the Rolex. You've got the AP, you've got the Patek, and you've got those receipts from Rolex, AP, Patek. People know what you've got. You're able to flex that. So when you go, oh, I've got a Rolex at home, they go, no, you don't. It's a fake one. You're going, peep my wallet. Guess what? I actually do. It's like, oh, damn, he's a real player. He can do, like, that is what he is. So this is where I get excited for it because the applications is it takes out all of the speculation of who people are and what they've done if you want to show off in that sense. And it doesn't just have to come down to flexing on other people, but it's just fun when you start to think of the fun applications of how it can be, because then there's going to be smart people like you guys that then build the tools and the applications to actually read through it, to do it. Because eventually, like I was saying, you go out with your friends with the beers, you can then check their wallet, add an alert. Hey, everyone creates that burner account. Now you know when someone's at the bar buying it. Like, you can just do this stuff. Bang, pinged alert. Oh, Steve-O's grabbing some beers. His payment's just gone through. Okay, cool. It's great. You can, like, there's all these things that you can do when it all comes through. I know it keeps coming back to beers, but it's fun when you start to think about the technology and how it can be used in just everyday life and in that sense, because it doesn't have to be those crazy 100x speculative things. The fact is, like, you've got a record of what you're doing and proof that you were the one who did it. And I think that's just ultimately, it's dope and it's awesome and it's cool.
I think that's the ultimate alpha for the NFT projects who have been listening here, is to, bring in utility of beer to some of your projects. And I think that's the next thing that you'll be looking for. And that's probably the meta going to be like. I wouldn't be surprised soon if you're like going out to the bar and having these things. But also, man, I think this has been a very, very fun conversation having you on and kind of
before we end,
yes.
One small thing, right? Like the next 1 minute is not financial advice. Let's just lay out what was the last thing we bought as an NFT. That's about it. What was the last
thing that I
bought? Yeah, each of us, right? Like, we'll start with you. What have you bought and why? In a minute.
The last thing that I bought would have been I can't remember what it was because it was a degen mint. It was one of those degen mints that went to zero. So it's in the hidden wallet right now. Like, it wasn't anything good. That's actually, like, truthfully what it is.
I'm having to check out this thing, but I bought this thing called NFT Expert Summit.
With Liam D. Yep.
Yes. So I think that is a very interesting one. I wanted to know what's up, and
because I spoke in that one, so I've got a thing in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the one which I kind of got through a whitelist, and so I was very happy to get in the whitelist. Okay. It's probably the only whitelist that I went. So.
Oh yeah. Oh okay.
Oh yeah.
I bought a Webaverse. 4 of those actually. Very high conviction for me because I think what they're doing is pretty awesome. They're building an MMO, open world MMO. And I think just the same day I bought Waziverse. It's a project by Inverse Bra. So yeah, smolderings. So these are the 2 things that I purchased recently. No reason particularly. This is something that I've been following for a while on Twitter. I know the people who are building it. Not personally, but I've been following them as well. I think, that's the reason I purchased. Yeah.
Awesome.
To throw something back at you, what are you guys looking at right now? Is there anything, not financial advice, do your own research? Is there something you're looking at right now that you think's hot that could pop off?
Nothing on my radar as of now.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't have anyone either, but I think what I'm finding interesting though is basically some of these other ecosystems which are starting to bubble. I think just like there was a switch between Ethereum to Solana, I think there is definitely some switches that's happening.
Oh, I think there needs to be a Cardano one at some point. There has to be an ADA one. So I've got one of the guys that lives in Sydney. He's James Dean. He's like deep in CNFTs, and I'm like, that shit has to pop, because it's like it's just a matter of time when people go, there's a decent arbitrage here. Like, it's not hard to kind of do that. But there will be this catalyst, and it's like those, because it's like now I know how to kind of buy it. I've loaded up a wallet with some ADA, and it's just learning that ecosystem so that when it does come, you can just turn it on and go. But it's also networking and knowing those people. So when something does pop, you're like, hey, is this actually as good as our ETH boys say it is, or the Solana boys say it is? And when they go, nah, man, it's not, you can go, okay, cool, it's fine. And when they go, yeah, it's hot, you can jump in on it, which circles back to networking and just like having the humility to talk to everyone about everything, and just like being friends with everyone, because it'll help you out longer term.
Yeah, that's the idea, that we want to bring along WalletFrens and have these conversations and keep growing that circuit. So thanks, Nate. Thanks for joining in and tuning in. And like, this was a fun conversation, getting to know your own story and like how sort of, you know, we've been looking at this space from different vantage points, and the idea with these conversations is to just get together people and kind of see what we are up to as in space overall. Awesome having you on here.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much.